Hi, in the last video I showed how I would write the phase 1 semantic representation for 2 Kings 6:1. And in this video I'm going to show you what it's supposed to be generated as if it were English. So I'm going to pause here and I'll just type it so you don't have to wait while I type it. So this is how it should come out in the English. Um, there's still this title marking. In the English, this is what we call our pseudo-English. It's not generated by the computer, but it's what the computer should generate. And it will give a indication to the person who's inputting the semantic representation into the computer as to how it should come out. So Elisha causes the blade of an axe to float. So when it's generated, it won't have these brackets. These brackets are useful for indicating clauses, but they get stripped out in the generation. And here I'm assuming that the word axe is available. I'm assuming that all the complex words are available. Then this sentence is an implicit subaction. And I found out, and I'll show you in a minute, I found out that the right notation is not subactions, but it should be implicit hyphen subaction without an S. This is an implicit sentence, so I marked it with these double less than and double greater than notation. The group of prophets came to Elijah. The group of prophets said to Elisha, "Look, the place where we meet with you is not good. It is too small." Okay, now, if you're working on the phase 1, you wouldn't necessarily have to do what I'm going to show you now, but I want you to understand kind of what's going on. So this is showing you how to do the phase 2. So first of all, I typed in what I wrote here, except I've corrected it's implicit hyphen subaction. Then you click the Analyze button. When you click the Analyze button, the computer does its best to analyze this verse. Like I said, if you're just working on phase 1, you wouldn't necessarily have to do this, but I want you to understand it. So it did pick up the title. If you put the mouse over here, you look down in this yellow section. If you look down far enough, you'd see location equals discourse title. It's about the 10th row there. So Elisha causes, I wanted it present tense. You can see now in the yellow, the 4th row says time equals present. Causes the blade of an axe. When we use a or an, that's what we associate with first mention. It's the first mention of it. And you can see first mention is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 row here in the yellow text. The blade of an axe to float. That might work. Okay, now the second sentence, the people. Now here you see how it's really represented. You might have thought that group would be the main noun modified of people, but the way TBDA does it is it shows people is the main noun, and it puts group relation with the word group. And then, so this is a phrase, a noun phrase, and then there's a clause marked in green here that's modifying person, because it's not within this right bracket here, it's within the brackets of person. And this is a restrictive thing modifying relative clause, which you can see in the second line of the yellow. So the people who tell messages of God to people, this should be generic, and it is. Look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th line, came. So our normal time value for past tense is called discourse because different languages use different way of writing it. So they came to Elijah. Okay, I'm not going to look at the this part here. Well, I guess I will. Okay, so this would be come out the same way, so it shouldn't be any different. So that one worked. Okay, this time that group of prophets said to Elijah, and it's the we have different forms of say. This is the direct speech one, and that's correct. This is a destination argument. So now this is a patient argument, which is an argument of say. So if you put the mouse over say and you look down at these, you can see the arguments in yellow. Under theta grid, it says an obligatory agent, and if you look down about 10 lines, it says an obligatory patient proposition. So this, what is said, is a requirement of say for direct speech. The quote begins here, Elisha, look. Now this should be an imperative, and if we put it over here, now look at the yellow, the third line says imperative. Wow, the program is really doing well. Okay, so the place, this should be a restrictive clause, relative clause, and it is. Look on the second line of the yellow, it says restrictive thing modifying clause that we, so it's plural. If you look down at the fourth line under noun, it says number equals plural. And if you look way down about the 10th or 11th line, it says person equals first inclusive. So it's inclusive first person plural. Okay, the place where we meet. Okay, it didn't do it like I wanted here. I wanted it to be exclusive, and it made it inclusive. That's because it used the wrong form of meet. And it interpreted where I put with you, Elijah, it made that a patient argument. So I don't want that. So I'm going to correct that. So I'm going to change this. So I'm going to click on features for person, and so it's first person inclusive. I want first person exclusive. So I click on that. Now that was indicated in the phase one with this underscore character, underscore EXCL. Remember I said anything following an underscore is not automatically interpreted by the program. So we couldn't expect the program to know what that meant. Where we meet, and then I don't want that to be a patient argument. I actually want that to be the semantic role not applicable. So it's not a patient because this is what we call an oblique. We're going to put a relation in there, meet with you, and I'm going to insert a word. So I'm going to click on insert word down here. So I click, it'll insert before the word that I put there. So add position, they're usually prepositions, and then I'm going to select with accompaniment. Okay, so that's how I make this no semantic role with you. And you here is singular and it's second person, so that's correct. At the place. So it got this right. So even though in English we'd say that we meet at, we don't put at the place, it's going to insert that place marker word in there. Okay, then is, present tense, predicative takes a predicate, so it takes an adjective. Good. and it's negative. If you look in the yellow text here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th line after verb is negative, is not good. That place, that is represented by a feature contextually near, which you see is like the 7th line, is present tense, too small. Now you see small has that feature too. It's the third thing after adjective in the yellow here. The degree is 2. If I look at the features of small, you can see that it can be 2, it can be intensified, very, it can be extremely small, it can be less small, least small, so there are various options. So some things are not indicated by words in the phase 2, what we call the phase 2, the computer representation, but they are represented by features. So I'm going to save analysis. Oh, I forgot to change the sense of meat. So remember I wanted to use the form of meat that didn't require a patient argument. So I click on the senses button down here, click on meat, and I'm going to change it to sense C. Okay, now I save analysis and there's no problem. Now, I'm going to click generate to see what it will generate in English. Now, if you're just working on the phase 1, you wouldn't necessarily have to do this, but I'm showing it to you so that you understand how the program works. Okay, so let's see how it generates. Title, Elisha causes the blade a tool to float. Okay, we can fix that. It didn't come out quite right. The group of prophets came to Elijah. The group of them said to Elisha, look, the place where we meet with you isn't good. It is too small. Now, you might be surprised at the group of them, but that makes sense because we've already mentioned prophets. Now, as I said, the translator can choose whether he wants implicit information to be used or not. You can specify that with this Audiences button up here. If I click on Audiences, you can see there's a tab for implicit information, and then you can choose whether you're going to include these sentences or not. And in our audience that we're using, they are included. But if they weren't included, it would not say the group of them. It would say the group of prophets. Now, it said causes the blade of a tool to float. So we really want it to be of a tool. Why didn't it do that? So I'm going to go up to generator here, lexicon and grammar development. Now, if you're only working on the phase 1, you wouldn't have to do this. But I'm just want you to understand, so I'm showing you how the phase 2 person could fix this up. So it says the blade, and there's a the way we represent of, or the Saxon genitive, the tools blade, is with what we call generic genitive. But see this question mark? It doesn't know how to do it. So I'm going to, I never can remember which one to click. I'm going to click on the question mark here. Nope, not that one. Maybe it's the middle one. Nope, maybe it's the top one. Yes. Okay, so here's where we define how we specify that. Now, if I want the Norman genitive, which is with of, then I'd click Norman genitive. But there's several options. So we could say the tool blade. That might not be an option. That might be a good option. I'm going to do Norman genitive, but that would be another option. Okay, and now from this screen, I can click generate and generate it here, as well as I can from Proposition Analyzer. Okay, Elijah causes the blade of a tool to float. The group of prophets came to Elisha. The group of them said to Elijah, look, the place where we meet with you isn't good. It is too small. Now, if you actually had this sentence, the people who were editing this, our translations are usually edited. I would probably edit this to be the group of prophets came to Elijah, they said to Elisha. That's probably how I would write it. But because I don't know whether or not this first sentence is included, I wrote it this way. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the here. And so this is how it should have come out. So blade of an axe. Oh, look, something we missed. It was blade of a tool. Let's go back to the proposition analysis. So here I wanted to pair axe with tool. So I'm going to click on complex pairings. There's a button for that. And now I click on tool. And I'm going to click on, I'm going to pick axe. Whoa, too many A's. I probably should have gone to B. Because, okay, axe. Do I want the other nouns that have the same thing list index in this verse to include this complex concept? I could say yes or no because it's only used once in this verse. But if it were used a number of times and you wanted to replace all of them, you'd say yes and it would replace all of them. That would be a really nice feature. So let's see what happens now if I click generate. So in some of the other verses, I won't show you the phase 2, but I want you to see it here now. Elisha causes the blade of an axe to float. Now that's funny. It didn't put of here. The group of prophets came to Elijah. The group of them said to Elijah, look, the place where we meet with you isn't good. It is too small. Causes the blade of an axe. I wonder why. Let's go back to generator, lexicon and grammar development. Maybe I needed to save it and I didn't save it or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's not defined. Okay, so let's do it again. That's funny. Normative, close, and how do I save it? I don't know. If I generate, I think it saves when you click generate, but it didn't. Okay, we'll go back and we'll check this again. We're going to go back to the proposition analyzer. Okay, so the blade of an axe, I has that of there. Save first. Maybe I have to do that now. Well, okay, now it's here. And if I click generate, I'm going into great detail here this time. Okay, causes the blade of an axe to float. Okay, so it says of an axe, so it has both of those right. So this is what we wanted. Now let's go back here. Now when we do the phase 1, we also add this pseudo-English. So see, I did this without generating it, but this is how it should look. The only difference is that here I'm marking that this is optional text with these double less than and double greater than. But otherwise, the words are all the same. These are all the same words, except it had the group of them here because it used prophets as an antecedent for prophets. We also add complex concepts. Genevieve says I should do this to help David get this in. And she also says I don't need this. Okay, under the verse, so I'll do it the way she likes it. Under the verse, we put the complex concepts. So we indicate that tool is paired with X, and prophet equals person who tells God's messages to people. Okay, so this pseudo-English and the complex concepts is going to be what the consultant will look at when he's checking out your semantic representations. And the consultant will know that if ax is not available, tool will be used instead of ax. And if the word prophet is not available, then this explication will be used. Now, normally, the person who writes the phase one can write out these complex concepts, but normally this person does not write this pseudo-English. Somebody else does that because this is kind of like a back translation, and just as a check that you're doing it right, we usually have someone else do this pseudo-English. But this is the final result of the phase one that can now be checked by a consultant. So I'll stop there, and that shows you in gory detail how to do both the phase one and the phase two for this first verse of 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 1.